In the middle of the night, I woke up to find that Bakugou wasn't lying down next to me. I got up and headed to the bathroom downstairs to wash my face, then go find Bakugou. After all, I was in his room, so it wasn't like he left back to his. While walking to the bathroom, I was surprised to see Shota running out the front door. "Shota?" I whispered, and of course decided to follow him. Instead of letting Shota know I was there, I hid behind a bin and watched the scene play out. All Might stood a few feet away from two very broken students, one physically, the other physically and emotionally, it seemed. Midoriya leaned back on his hand, staring up at All Might with a bleeding cheek. Bakugou was crying, leaning over on his knees and yelling. Why'd I have to be the reason for All Might to lose his power? Why was it me? It broke me to see Bakugou like that, and all I wanted to do was glitch in there and hug him, tell him that it wasn't his fault. Tell him that no matter what happened, that All Might was going to fall and stop being the symbol of peace. I even felt myself start to cry, but I wiped away the tears. "Aizawa, I got this. I will return these students," All Might said, acknowledging Shota's presence. Shota sighed and started walking back. I went to move further behind the bin, but a familiar cloth wrapped around me and threw me forward. The two boys and Pro Hero didn't seem to realise it happened. I rolled down the street, feeling my arms fill up with bloody scrapes. "God, Shota!" I groaned, standing to my feet. "A little harsh, huh?" "What are you doing out here?" Shota's scarf wrapped back around his neck, and he walked past me, which made me follow next to him. "Katsuki wasn't in bed. I went to go look for him and saw you running out the door. I followed Shota into his office, to which he sat down at the desk with a sigh. Go to bed." "No, I want to wait until Katsuki gets back." "Go to bed." Sighing, I knew he would probably actually kill me, and I headed back to bed. Instead of actually going to sleep, I sat against the bed frame and hugged my knees. I put Bakugou's jacket on and put the hoodie over my head. Every now and then I would slowly rock back and forth, hum a little, close my eyes for a few seconds before opening them. I ended up closing my eyes for a little too long and fell asleep. "Hey, YN, Scoot." I opened my eyes and looked back at the tired, red ruby eyes staring back at me. A bandage was on his cheek and a few on his arms that I could see. There was bandages wrapped all around both my wrists, which made us twins. Yes, I still wore bandages for that. If Bakugou saw the scars he left, then he'd probably hate himself more than he does right now. Right away, I wrapped my arms around his neck, still half awake. "Katsuki," I mumbled, wrapping my arms around him. I let myself fall, which dragged Bakugou on top of me. "I love you." Bakugou used his hands and planted them on the bed to hold himself up. His face filled with a blush. What?" "I heard, Katsuki. It wasn't your fault. No matter what was going to happen, the symbol of peace wouldn't last forever." Bakugou lay down on the bed next to me. "I love you." I crawled over him, kissing him. Bakugou sighed, wrapping an arm around me and pulling me closer. He kissed me on the forehead. "I love you too." Again, I woke up in the middle of the night. This happens way more often than I'd like to admit. Though, again, I wasn't curled up next to Bakugou, or he wasn't holding on to me or anything. I looked around to see him sitting on the side of the bed, leaning over with his elbows against his knees. "Katsuki?" I stood on my knees and placed my hands against his back. "You're not okay." Bakugou sighed. "Lean against the bed frame." Fucking do it." A sigh escaped my lips, but I did as he said, and leaned against the bed frame. Almost right away, Bakugou fell back, his head landing on my lap. I smiled and ran my fingers through his hair. It's that damn Deku. Bakugou curled up a little. His face was lightly touching my stomach. One of his hands were hooked underneath my thigh, while the other hand was slightly up the back of my shirt. He should be better than me because since... Bakugou paused, and I knew that All Might must have explained his quirk, so he knew the dangers of explaining it to someone else, because he's been given one for all. Bakugou quickly turned to face me. How the fuck did you? All Might told me a while ago. I caught him in his skeleton state before the entire world figured out about it. I brushed the hair out of Bakugou's face, which is when I realised that there were more bandages on his face. And I get it, Katsuki. Though you can beat Midoriya if you try. It's going to be okay. You know why? Bakugou was silent for a few moments before mumbling, "Why?" I reached down, placing a kiss against his lips. Because I like you. And I will always be by your side. I whispered and kissed him softly. Bakugou reached up and cupped my cheeks, rubbing his thumb back and forth. I love you. I froze, my lips lightly grazing his. That's what you said before you fell asleep, and is basically what you did say. Do you love me? The hand that was wrapped underneath my thigh started to rub its thumb back and forth. I stayed silent before closing the small gap between our lips. My hand slipped from his hair onto his shoulders, slowly slipping down to run down his chest. I do, Katsuki. Bakugou sat up slowly, leaning me back into the bed frame and kissing me lightly. I love you. I love you too. I wrapped my arms around him, pushing him onto his back and digging my face into his neck. Bakugou's fingers threaded through my hair as I lay on top of him. Please don't ever do some stupid shit like that again, I mumbled, feeling my eyes getting heavy. No promises. I chuckled lightly before letting my eyes fall shut, and I quickly fell asleep as I breathed in Bakugou's scent, which I loved, almost as much as I loved him.